Hey there, it is great to meet you. So let me start off just by giving you a virtual high five. The idea of, okay, taking the GMAT once and getting a 610, which is a pretty disappointing score. I'm sure you were not happy with it. And then taking it again and then getting a 610 a second time. I mean, it must have felt like such a punch in the gut. So for you to persevere through that, take it a third time and this time get a 750. I would like to high five you for that virtual tip of the hat. Great perseverance. So congratulations to you for that. Some other things that I like about this profile, you're working for what looks like you're saying it's the biggest company in all of India, which I'm pretty sure I know what it is, but we're going to pretend that I don't. And the other thing that's interesting is that right now you're leading a team of 60 distributors and you are helping sell in, I think this is liquid gas, to 450,000, you're sort of covering a customer base of 450,000 consumers, I'm guessing, in one area. Here's a sort of super random side note. You originally wrote this as 0.45 million. Give yourself credit, man. Write the whole number out like this, right? Make it look bigger, even though it's the same number. Don't sell yourself short on that side. Anyway, so moving on. So you're leading this team. You guys are making sure that the orders are coming in. That part of it, making sure that the supply is in effect, or the supply is going well, and people can get the supplies that they need, and there's equitable supply distribution. I mean, inspecting the distributorship operations. That part of the profile does get, it's a little bit less interesting, I think, to AdCom. So what I would say to you is you really need to spin this and really focus a lot on leadership, right? On the interpersonal skills that have been required. I don't want you to talk about your responsibilities, because if you start talking about let me tell you about the inspection document that I invented, that might sound a little on the boring side. I worry about that. But if you talk about, look, I am managing a team of 60 people. It's a pretty diverse team, right? They come from all walks of life. And, I came up with this idea for a mobile app. I think down here you start to talk a little bit about a mobile app. And some of them didn't want to do it because for whatever reason. And here's how I persuaded them. If you focus the application on the leadership stories that are behind these 60 people, then I think it's going to go far. So what do I mean by this? Well, I think there's kind of two versions of this story, right? There's applicant A and applicant B. And applicant A has the same job you have, and maybe applicant A just, shows up every day, does the bare minimum, makes sure that the orders are being placed properly, makes sure that, all these different people who want the materials are getting the materials on time, and they're doing a perfectly fine job, but they're also kind of doing the bare minimum. Applicant B, on the other hand, might have the exact same job on paper, but maybe applicant B has come in and has innovated with new ideas and fresh ideas to really inspire the team and to get them going and to have them try new things that are helping increase the revenues. So it's a little hard for me to tell from this description whether or not you're applicant A or applicant B. It sounds to me like you're hinting at that you might be applicant B. You talk about that you've forecasted sales and revenue. Again, like applicant A simply takes someone's existing forecast and uses the same forecast that's been used for the past 20 years. Applicant B brings in a new machine learning tool that automates the process for everyone. You have that you identify new markets and you've exploited new opportunities. That's great. I would love to see the results here, right? What has that dollar growth been? And another side note, similar to a note I made previously, when you are reporting any sort of numbers like dollar figures or monetary amounts, always put it in the currency of the country of the school that you're applying to. So don't, if you're applying to a US school, put those numbers in US dollars, put it in euros for the European programs and pounds for the British programs, et cetera, et cetera. So just a heads up there. But I would love to see, going back to the broader picture, I'm not really sure that I'm not sure if you're applicant A or applicant B because I don't know what the results are. So in terms of the resume, you're going to want to focus on the results. In terms of the essays and the interview and the letters of recommendation, you're going to have to focus on those EQ people skills. Now, underneath that, there's this very interesting little piece about a mobile app that you helped develop. Not entirely clear. It sounds like you helped develop, it says here, developing module and features of mobile app. So I don't know if that means like you helped develop one out of several modules, or if you were involved in a significant portion of its development. If you were involved in a significant way, please also play that up. I think that that's it's honestly one of the most interesting things I've read in this profile. So, obviously don't exaggerate. If you were not actually all that involved, then don't exaggerate. But if you really did help play a role in bringing this app to life, I would love for that to be something that you talk about in your leadership examples. Now, moving on to the long-term goals, this is where things for me get a little bit less, wah. Because your long-term goal is basically, you want to go work in management consulting and you want to have that job pretty much essentially until the day you die. You eventually want to become a partner or managing director or something like that. And that's a fine career vision. It's just not that interesting. It's not that inspiring. And you mentioned in your little note that you have purchased Applicant Lab, which is awesome. Please go through the career vision module and really watch. If you get to a career vision essay question, please do watch my videos on career visions. Do try to find something that's maybe just a little bit more apt to get, and if I were an admissions reader, to get me to say like, no, we have to take this guy, right? Don't you understand? Like, they're going to do this amazing thing in the world. Like, there was a part of me that was actually thinking what might make for an interesting career vision for you is, given that you have such unique firsthand experience with what these field distributors' needs are, I think that there would be a fascinating play for you career-wise to try to look into building out tech tools that would make their lives easier, right? So building upon this mobile app experience and really kind of multiplying it tremendously. The opportunity size there is probably pretty big. So that might be something interesting to look at. But so anyway, so I just, go through the career vision module of the lab. Please come up with something that's just a little bit more, got a little bit more oomph there. You also originally, in your profile, you actually originally had a sentence at the end of this that said something like, and then after that, or in addition to that, I also want to consult to the government of India about rural schools. And I didn't even bother highlighting it. I just deleted it 100%. I don't see any evidence in this profile whatsoever that you have the expertise nor the connections necessary to do that. So while I certainly applaud the nobility of the sentiment, in terms of your application story, not sure that you can really sell that to an admissions committee in a convincing way. So I would just don't even muddy the waters, just don't go there. Stick with something related to energy. At least, even if that thing is consulting, I'd rather have you say, as much as I'm sort of bummed out by, I want to work in oil and gas consulting, and then after that, I'm going to keep working in oil and gas consulting. As much as that sort of vanilla career vision bums me out, it does not bum me out nearly as much as, and then I'm going to work with the government to try to solve the problem of rural school. Like, that is, that just seems so out of nowhere. That I would really, you'll see I don't even have it anymore. I just deleted it. So it gives you a sense of what my, how much I wasn't a fan of that. But I'm doing this because I'm on your team, right? I want to help you develop the story that's going to help you get in, right? Then moving on to your school list, this felt like a somewhat arbitrary list. Some of the schools I definitely associate with energy, like Fuqua for sure. Wharton, yeah, why not? Absolutely apply to Wharton. I think everyone should apply to at least a couple of Reach schools because you never know what's going to happen. So absolutely apply to Wharton and apply to some of the top programs. I just wasn't sure, like Kellogg, I don't really know that and please correct me if I'm wrong, but off the top of my head, I don't know that I associate Kellogg with a ton of stuff going on with energy. The way there's so much going on with energy, especially renewable energy at Duke Fuqua. For sure, of the schools you mentioned on your list, they're my favorite one for you, hands down. I think that their offerings in the energy space are ones that, you will be fascinated by. Ross, maybe. Booth, maybe. What I would do in terms of, okay, Maria, how do I narrow down my list, is I would go through the electives that each of the schools has on energy. So look at the electives that they offer and see which ones are most interesting, see which schools offer the most electives, see which schools' energy clubs seem to have the most number of people in it. That'll give you a sense of how strong that sub-community is within that program. And that's how I would start to narrow it down. I was a little surprised to not see any of the Texas schools, right? As you may know, Texas is the epicenter of the energy industry for the United States. So I would definitely add UT Austin to your list, and maybe even a school like Mays. With a 750 GMAT, my hope would be that maybe some of the programs that are perhaps, if their average GMATs are, say, below a 700 and you have a 750, the opportunity for a scholarship or the probability of a scholarship suddenly, becomes a bit more substantial. So if that's something that matters to you, I would also look at those programs for those reasons as well. There's a version of this story where you end up going to a place like UT Austin, which has they have been investing so heavily in their entrepreneurship offerings. You go to a place like Austin, you go to their beautiful new building. I was just there this summer. It's gorgeous. You participate in some of their venture lab, or I think they might call it the venture garage. Sorry, so many schools. They all have similar things. It all floats in my head. It all smushes together in my head. But you do one of those like new venture entrepreneurial things at a place like UT Austin. You settle in Austin after graduation. You come up with this mobile app. You sort of expand on the idea. You settle in Austin. You sell it to the energy companies in Texas. I don't know. I think there's a version of that story that I just told that I think is pretty compelling. And maybe it's just a fairy tale type of story, or maybe it's a story that makes a lot of sense for you to consider pursuing. But either way, I hope this has been useful. And thank you so much, and all the best. Thanks.